My name's Tom Brown from Warren, Pennsylvania, originally from Shingle House, Pennsylvania, and I served in the United States Air Force. I was originally drafted in 1964 and went down and joined the Air Force instead, and got stationed after basic training was in tech school. I was stationed at McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. From there, I actually was in the career field called life support, where we actually, at McGuire, we had large cargo aircraft, so we had to load the aircraft for whatever the mission was, whether it was over water, not over water, and long distance and so on. So there are certain equipment configurations that were there based upon whatever the mission was. We got reassigned to Chambly Air Base in France, and that was kind of an interesting assignment. For me, it actually, again, it was in life support, but now I was with what they called RB-66s. They were bombers that were reconfigured to reconnaissance. We had pilots there, so my mission changed a little bit to taking care of the pilots, making sure that their helmets and their oxygen masks and their parachutes and their survival kits and all things were ready for them to go when they actually flew. The interesting part about that portion of my career was that France was such a new place, and they had opened up 5 bases, so the materials that we needed, for example, the oxygen masks for the pilots, I had a lot of smalls and a lot of extra larges, but I didn't have anything in between. And I found that there were bases in Germany that had those sizes, but they didn't have the sizes I had. So I actually worked out a mission to go up to Germany once a week to kind of barter, if you would, with our trade. So it was kind of interesting. We were there for a little over a year, and then Charles de Gaulle decided that he was going to take the American bases out of France again. And then I was shipped to Lakenheath Air Force Base in England. And that was right during the Vietnam era. And that's where I really spent my initial Vietnam era tour of duty, was training new pilots to go to Vietnam, and that was in a fighter outfit, F-100s. And again, the same thing, making sure the pilots' survival gear and all their equipment was up to speed when they took off. I took a lot of pride in that. Part of our mission there was that we would, because England's weather is not the best in the world for flying, we would be in England for 2 months and then go to Aviano, Italy for a month, and come back to England for 2 months and then go to Willis Air Base in Libya for a month. And then the other rotation, 2 rotations, were to Turkey and to Nova Scotia. And so for a young kid in the service, I was 21 years old when I went in, and so I got a chance to see a lot of world. And coming from a small town in Shingle House, Pennsylvania, less than 1,500 people, it was quite an awakening for a young man to go into the world. I actually left England because I wanted to finish my college degree. I'd started out at Bloomsburg State Teachers College at the time, but I went back to Mansfield State Teachers College at that time and finished my degree in teaching, taught school for a year and a half, and then went to graduate school for guidance and counseling. And I ran out of money at the graduate school, and so then there was a prior service program where I could go back in the service the same rank I was when I got out. I was in Tennessee at that time. I figured, well, no problem. I got the GI Bill, which was very gracious and a good thing that resulted from my service. But I had an assistantship to go down there, and they had reappropriated their funds. And so the dean called me into the office and said, well, Tom, I'm sorry, but we can't award you the assistantship because we've reappropriated our funds and we only have enough money for one assistantship. And the other person was from Tennessee, so it was pretty obvious that he was going to get the assistantship and not me. But anyway, I said, no problem, I'll get a job, and I'll pump gas, I'll do whatever it takes. But it was the first time in my life I couldn't find a job. I decided to go back in the Air Force. Again, stationed back to McGuire Air Force Base. and this time in logistics. And so I was in logistics for a couple of years. I was at McGuire Air Force Base in logistics. And I actually had volunteered for Vietnam at that time, and well, I'd been volunteered before, and I was over in the fighter outfit, and didn't get selected then, and so then I got out and came back, volunteered again, and I was on orders 3 times to go to different places in Thailand and Nam. And each time, just before I got ready to go, once I was on orders for 10 months, and I'd actually signed out of McGuire getting ready to go, and they called me back the next day and said, oh, by the way, your orders were canceled, so you're back to McGuire again. And so that went on for several months with other orders, and they came, and then they didn't go, and then I got orders for Iceland. I said, well, I won't go there either. Well, I went to Iceland. And so, interestingly enough, that was probably one of the best Air Force assignments that I had. You would think Iceland is, cold and ice all the time, but actually the mean average temperature is not much different than in New York City. So I spent a year there, and at that point in time I got accepted into Officers Training School, which was one of my goals all along. So from there, I forgot to put on that thing, I went to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas for Officers Training School. It's become a 90-day wonder. And very interesting experience, although I had to learn to walk all over again because we marched every place we went. And even though the second half of Officers Training School, you were in the wing or in the staff structure, but you could go places by yourself, but you still had to march. So anyway, then I went to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona, in the ICBM missiles, Titans. And I did probably 3 years there, and then I was accepted into Vandenberg Air Force Base as an instructor for Titan missile. All the new officers coming in, I was chosen to be an instructor there. So I spent 4 years in Vandenberg, and that's when I took the Air Force ROTC assignment at Lehigh University. And from there I went back into the Minuteman missile business, and subsequently retired there as an operations officer for that at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. When I was at Air Force ROTC, I was the ranking officer in the area, and one of the difficult portions of that was that I was actually for that area, I was the notification officer to go out, and if someone was killed on duty, you had to notify the parents. And that's probably one of the more challenging positions that I had at that particular point in time. They all were challenging, but that was tough when you had to go out and notify somebody that one of their relatives or kin had passed away in the military.